my day one, I think I was a very possibly a social justice warrior, a bright-eyed dreamer who I think I would definitely, despite studying sociology or having, I think all my internships, shooting the documentary, I had an opportunity to meet people who were from very difficult and vulnerable backgrounds, and but nothing prepared me for what I would see in the fellowship. So I think I went in with the notion that, oh yes, these 2 years can be transformational, and we can change the lives of all the children I'm working with. And I think very quickly I figured that whatever I've learned before, like whatever statistics, so whether it can be X percentage of children don't get food, why, it's very different when you know there's a hungry child in your classroom. Like there was a face to all the numbers that I read. It was very difficult getting my head around both the classroom, new teaching. I was living in a new city. So very quickly I realized that a really big part of the ecosystem for me was going to be my children's mothers. They had the time in their hands, and they were the most invested in that child. So even if as a teacher I felt like, I really care for the children, I very quickly realized that when the mother is going to be invested in the child's education, then that's far more sustainable. So it was a really great partnership where the mothers would cook healthy and nutritious food, and in classroom we were trying to get children to eat healthy. So yeah, it was that for me was a starting point to remember that for a child to do well, there are so many of us who need to come together. I think I left knowing how significant and insignificant an individual can be against something as big as inequity. I think I left knowing I was able to make a difference to my children, but I also left knowing there is so much that has to fall in place for my children to be to realize their potential. So that was the point where we asked ourselves, what does all children mean for us? And all roads led us to rural Tamil Nadu, where we currently live. We work in Cuddalore, in rural Cuddalore in Tamil Nadu. So we had mothers from the community come up and share that they don't have a means to create a livelihood for themselves. And if they did, they would be able to contribute better to their children's lives. And that sort of sowed the seeds for Sura. Sura is a social enterprise of Kanavu, where we stitch bags and pouches and home decor products and sell it to a global audience. And it's been running for the past 4.5 years as a business. And I think the inspiration to pick up and run that idea for me came from my fellowship. When I think back to the mothers I worked with, I knew that if they had an opportunity to support their children financially, they would love to. And not just the women I worked with in the fellowship, but also after that, over the years, I know that women feel like without completing their education, without having learned a skill, or currently without being aware of how technology works, they feel they're very disadvantaged, and hence they're not able to contribute to their child's life, both financially or with respect to decision making. And I think that I saw that a lot with the mothers I worked with in the fellowship, and in the scope of the fellowship there wasn't much that I could do. But when these women approached me, I think I really saw the faces of the women I worked with in the fellowship then, and I thought how much this would mean to a Shahid's mother. Actually, Salman's mother would have definitely taken up this opportunity, and that's sort of really what pushed me to say, yes, okay, let's set this up, let's see where this goes. Again, there was an accidental entrepreneur part 2 where we said, okay, we'll take this up and we'll run with it. And I definitely think the will to power through is something that comes from the fellowship. I think for me, the fellowship also showed me that it's possible, that change is possible, that transformation is possible, and we just have to stick to it. The power to stick with the problem. Like the problem is not going to go away. It's only our ability to stick to it and then staying with the problem. I think the fellowship really, and the fellowship both my own, and I've had the opportunity to work with over 100 fellows through my 7 years at Teach For India. And I think watching the trajectories of so many fellows, and I see that there is something very powerful about sticking with the problem. And I think the fellowship built my muscle to stay with the problem. And so that's possibly the tree that's grown to its fullest.